Back on the Sports Zone, I am Mike Aglialoro. Once again, thanks to everyone who subscribed to the YouTube channel Mike Ags 121. If you haven't done so, please do so right under the video. Like the video, and if you do like this, check out the website thisisportszone.com. Like us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter at WeAreSportsZone. So we're back and we're continuing the 2014 Fantasy Football Preview. We've looked at the sleeper and bust running backs. We've looked at the sleeper wide receivers. And today we're going to look at the busts at the wide receiver position for this coming season. We're going to start off with Pierre Garcon of the Washington Redskins. Now, I ranked him a lot lower than a lot of others like ESPN and Yahoo in my fantasy football wide receiver rankings. I actually ranked Deshaun Jackson ahead of Pierre Garcon. I've never really been a big fan of his. He's always been a disappointment in my eyes. I feel like he's overachieved the last two seasons, and he's not the explosive receiver that Deshaun Jackson is. And I don't even think he has the potential of the tight end Jordan Reed. So this year I feel like if you take Garcon as a number one or even a number two wide receiver, you're going to be disappointed. If you can grab him as a three wide receiver, I think you'd be a lot better off for it. Moving on, I talked about him when I did the wide receiver rankings as well. Andre Johnson of the Houston Texans. I've stated already, I don't really think the Texans offense is going to be that good as a whole with Ryan Fitzpatrick running it right now. And Arian Foster, I've already considered him a bust at the running back position. Johnson is coming into his age 33 season. He does have two consecutive seasons with over 100 receptions and 1,400 plus receiving yards. But he hasn't gotten any more than 5 touchdowns over the last 3 seasons. The potential is there, considering the situation going on around him, for him to greatly disappoint. And he's getting up there in years anyway. He's no longer a number one wide receiving option, in my opinion. If you grab him as a number 3 wide receiver, again, a lot better off for it. Next up, another guy I hate to put on this list, but it's Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals. Coming into his age 31 season, with his replacement basically right next to him in Michael Floyd, he's averaged only 876 receiving yards over the last 2 seasons. He did get 10 touchdowns last season, but he's only averaging 6 yards per target over the last 2 seasons. Now, Carson Palmer's a good quarterback who definitely stabilized that offense last year, but again, Larry Fitzgerald is sadly entering the twilight of his career. No longer a number 1 or even a number 2 wide receiver, number 3 wide receiver you need to take him as. These, again, are going to be a lot of guys I consider number 3 or lower who are being drafted much higher than they really should be. Moving on, another guy I feel that way with is Wes Welker of the Denver Broncos. How can you put anyone in a Peyton Manning-led offense on this list? Well, he's another guy getting up there in years. I look at Emmanuel Sanders, Julius Thomas, and Demaryius Thomas as younger, much more attractive options in my eyes to a guy like Peyton Manning, and I think they're going to be used a lot more in the red zone than Wes Welker, and he's the injury risk of the 4 options there. So moving on, Mike Wallace of the Miami Dolphins, who I've never been a big fan of since he went to Miami. He didn't have a year anywhere close to the years he had in Pittsburgh last season, and I don't really look for that situation to get any better, even though he does have a decent quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. Moving on, and the last guy on the list is going to be Marcus Colston of the New Orleans Saints. This is simply a situation where you have Kenny Stills and Brandon Cook, a lot younger, a lot more potential for a guy like Drew Brees in terms of getting them the ball, and you still have Jimmy Graham, the true number 1 wide receiver in this offense. I don't care if the courts rule that he's technically a tight end. He's the number 1 receiver in that offense. Colston himself has seemingly regressed over the last 2 years anyway, and I don't even consider him a number 3 option. He's a flex play or the first option off your bench in my eye. You can do a lot better in those middle rounds, 5 through 7, than a guy like Colston. So once again, the busts at the wide receiver position in my eyes: Pierre Garcon of the Washington Redskins, Andre Johnson of the Houston Texans, Larry Fitzgerald of the Arizona Cardinals, Wes Welker of the Denver Broncos, Mike Wallace of the Miami Dolphins, and Marcus Colston of the New Orleans Saints. Once again, thanks to everyone who subscribed to us on the channel Mike Ags 121. Please subscribe now if you haven't done so. Like the video. Check out the website thisissportszone.com. Like us on Facebook. Follow us on Twitter at WeAreSportsZone. Send us any questions and comments you may have. Thanks everyone for watching. For This Is Sports Zone, I am Mike Aglialoro. We will see you next time, guys.